Welcome back to Seymi Asks. Today I have an absolutely amazing guest with us today. This is Leila Toigo, which I think I pronounced it correctly.
Yeah, good.
Perfect. So Leila is a mom to two neurodivergent, cute little girls. You homeschool them, is that correct?
I homeschool my eldest daughter. My second just started somewhere, but yes,
Okay. Okay, beautiful. Can't wait to hear more about that. But then she's an advocate for parenting neurodivergent kids and like what comes along with it. So super excited to have her on today. Leila, I'm going to hand it over to you. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself. If I missed anything, I'd love to hear from you as well.
Of course, yeah. So first of all, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for asking me on.
You're welcome.
To chat with you. So yeah, I am a mother to two neurodivergent daughters. The first is diagnosed as autistic. The second, we are going to be seeking a diagnosis for her as well. We are, I say we because they are also contributors to the whole thing, but we started a community on Instagram and TikTok that essentially shares parts of our journey in the hopes of inspiring people to see neurodivergence and autism through an affirming lens, and also to empower parents to accept, embrace, and support their autistic kids so they can thrive. And in the process of that, it also found sort of a new life in learning from and amplifying autistic experiences. So I connected with a ton of autistic adults, and they have been such an incredibly powerful resource for me as a parent. And so I also use the platform to uplift their experiences.
Yeah, I love that. Everything about that is just what we need more of in the world. So before I even start with the question, honestly, from your introduction, I just wanted to know what, other than like your kids, obviously, is there anything in you that inspired you to do so rather than just following the next person or just taking medical advice and just moving on? What was really that drive from you to even homeschool one of your kids and then also really get on the platform to bring awareness to all of this?
Yeah. I wish it was a happy and empowered thing, but what it was watching how across societal systems, my neurodivergent child was excluded or straight up discriminated against. We had put her, she was 2.5 years old, and we had put her in a daycare school program. I was very pregnant for a second. And I would get called every single day to pick her up at noon. And when I would go pick her up, she was on one side of the classroom sitting alone, 2.5 years old, and everybody else was doing an activity. So she had been segregated from her peers because they just didn't want to deal with her. And later that very year, we had her in gymnastics, and I said, hey, my daughter has a language difference. We at the time didn't have the diagnosis. And they said, well, she's actually aged out of parent participation, so she can't do gymnastics until she follows directions. Yeah. So another way she was excluded from something. Even within, our own family, I don't know if you've experienced this, but if there are other children who are similar ages, you see how much bonding in our society is rooted in reciprocity of speech. And because she didn't say hi when you walked into a room, or that just very naturally for people, they were gravitating towards other children. And that broke my heart. And not because they wanted to. This is friends, family, whatever. Little things that just continued to build up in me and sort of stoke the fire within me to be like, hey, my kid is deserving and worthy of all experiences and of the same love as anybody else, of the same level of education as anybody else, just us, So that's kind of what initially inspired the fire within me to be that I am today.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I definitely relate to everything that you're saying. My 6-year-old now, it was when he was 5, like transitioning from daycare. That's when, because daycare is very unstructured, so we still had some issue, but it wasn't like a thing.
Yeah.
until he now had to sit in a classroom 4 hours, be, structured. That's when his symptoms started to come out. So I understand, because I was called from my work literally around noontime. It was either before lunch or after lunch and for recess when he became extremely unregulated.
Yeah.
And typically when I picked mine up, he was like in the principal's office. So again, just and then within my family, eye contact, for an example, is very important. We like draining into my son, especially before his diagnosis. That's something that we drill into. You need to look at somebody, you need to look at. And once we learned, I mean, now sometimes he looks, sometimes he doesn't. It doesn't matter, but we know he's fully there and he's fully listening.
Absolutely. And yeah.
Mhm.
And it can be so painful for them, eye contact, that they're actually more present when they're not focusing on making eye.
Yeah, I have to remind my husband that often, because when he's having talks with him, he'll be looking somewhere else. And then he expresses to him that it feels like he's not listening, but actually he will repeat it word to word to ask exactly what that conversation was like. So I spoke to my husband. I said, sometimes them focusing or like doing something helps him to take in that information so much better than if he was just looking at you. So many barriers, so many stigma to break. Honestly, I'm so excited for this conversation. So I think you already maybe mentioned a little bit of my first question. The first one is, what were the initial signs that led you to recognize your children's neurodivergence, and how did it impact your parenting?
So with I'll speak to my eldest, because she is who really inspired this whole thing. So she came out of the womb autistic, and no one can tell me otherwise. She never slept. She literally 45-minute stretches from babyhood. She always had to be held, always. She was very dysregulated when she wasn't. She was always stimming. But of course, with your first child, and I don't know if you can relate to this, I didn't know anything. At around 18 months, I began to think like, okay, she's definitely different from her peers. Like the language is different. The joint attention is different. She wasn't pointing. She wasn't answering yes or no. The food aversions began, like pretty intense food aversions. And then around 2.5, it was like her language was very different. She only communicated in nursery rhymes. And so I ended up calling a speech and language place, and I was like, hey, my daughter only communicates in nursery rhymes, and I think she maybe needs some support in this area. So that day I took her in, and they're like, yeah, she's a Gestalt language processor, like right away. And then from then began my journey with really understanding her.
So you openly affirm neurodivergent parenthood, which I actually appreciate a lot, because that's exactly what caught my eye whenever I came across your platform. So can you tell us about the moment that inspired you to embrace and advocate this publicly? Because you mentioned a little bit as kind of when you started talking about it and taking the step, but like so public, because you have what, 25
on Instagram and 10.
Oh my gosh, that's so like what was it? What was it that really got that moment going?
So my journey with learning began on social media. At the time, was living in a place where I didn't have any friends who had autistic kids. I felt incredibly isolated, and I needed community. And naturally, I am inclined to research and to learning. And so I just began like scouring the internet for community and for resources and knowledge. And I connected with so many incredible people. And I was like, I think I can do this. I've learned so much, and I feel like I can come from a lens of empowerment that maybe isn't happening the way that I would want to do it. So with that advice, having the courageous conversations that a lot of people I think tiptoe around, and fairly so. I get it. There's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of fear. When you put yourself out there, you're also exposing yourself to some really crazy people.
Nasty,
And then also, I didn't see any people of my background doing this, as a brown Middle Eastern woman. And that to me also made a difference. I think we need to have people like us in these spaces who are coming from a different cultural background, who maybe do have a little bit more stigma within those cultures, or, you know, and can speak to a very different experience in how we than a lot of the people who are doing this. So that was part of it too.
I love, love, love that you got up and you did something that you wanted to see in the world. That's amazing.
Likewise. I so admire you for that.
Oh,
it's not easy though. Like, we definitely
not easy. Oh my goodness, it is. We can't even start on that because that's a whole other like chapter.
No, we could have a whole other conversation on that.
Truly. So number 3, what are some challenges you face raising neurodivergent children, and how have you navigated them while prioritizing you and your child's well-being? So this one is a pretty heavy one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak to the challenges of having a child in a world that doesn't cater to them, and addressing those systemic barriers and issues that are literally everywhere. You asked me what led me to homeschooling my daughter, and this is a good question. This is a good answer. I mean, a good place to answer that.
Right.
So my daughter was in the public education system in a special education setting. And she, despite having an amazing teacher and paraprofessionals who adored her, she began to show me severe anxiety driving to school. So on that drive to school, all of a sudden one day she began to have debilitating hyperventilating anxiety, and because she could not tell me what happened, I had to honor that. And this is something that happens very commonly with our kids, that the school system, because it is essentially geared towards neurotypical learners and does best with a very stark lack of resources to include our kids, our neurodivergent kids, they get burnt out. And it ends up not being an awesome setting for many of our kids. So that was an incredible challenge. Navigating systems, navigating healthcare when you have a differently or non-speaking child. The you know, if your child can't tell you what hurts, what happens, right? If your child can't tell you I'm nauseous or whatever else, if they don't have the tools to do that, oftentimes our kids just get kind of brushed under the rug or watch and wait. That's been very difficult.
It's a huge challenge.
It's a huge challenge, and if I'm finding this hard, imagine how.
So thank you for that answer. I related to that a lot whenever it comes to like the challenges, and then also you navigate it. The fact that you try to relate to your child, that's something I've learned probably in the last month as I've been going through therapy, is realizing that, okay, I have triggers myself, and it's very tough for myself to regulate often. So if I'm feeling this way, I can't even imagine what a 6-year-old who's like, he has part of his brains that's not even fully developed to start with. And then on top of that, he has his diagnosis. So if I'm going to yell, if I'm going to withdraw, if I'm going to throw my tantrums with my big age, me as a big age woman, like, how can I expect that from someone who's been here for 6 years?
Absolutely. And part of it is that society actually has incredibly unrealistic and unfair expectations for autistic kids.
That's true.
Autistic kids are expected to do 40 hours of therapy a week at 3 years old. That's a full-time job.
That's a full-time job.
That's a full-time. So why are we expecting that of a 3-year-old child? It's the societal expectation that unfortunately is rooted in a deficit-based way of viewing our kids. It's like, oh, they need to be fixed. That's a whole conversation.
I just feel like I'm so sorry to cut off, but I'm like feeling this very emotionally. It's a way to, again, just put them in a box. To me, it feels like a prison. It's like you're in prison, you must be regimented, you must be structured in a certain way. It's like, that's it hurts me. You can tell that that one definitely strong something within me, but
I can see that, and
yeah.
I see you in it, and I honor that, and I relate. I have this conversation a lot, and it's so nuanced. It's so nuanced because many families are left with no other choice
Yeah.
because they need help.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I try to remind people
Mm-hmm.
whose mentality is that it is needed, not who do it out of a necessity, but whose
Yeah.
mentality is that they need to fix their child, is that autistic children deserve to be children.
Yep.
They are a 3-year-old and autistic,
Mm-hmm.
and they deserve the joy of childhood wonder, you know? And so
Yeah.
that's where it
Ugh,
breaks my heart
I
too.
feel that. I feel that they have so much more expected. They just can't be children to be children. They have
Yeah.
so many things coming at them, and it's so early on. Like these things that are telling them, like you're different. You need to do better. You have to work harder,
Yeah.
harder just to be in society. And that hurts
Accepted.
my heart. I want him to just do his thing. I want him, when he's feeling overwhelmed, just to be overwhelmed. Whenever he feels like stimming, even if it's a weird stim, I want him to just do whatever helps him to
Yes.
be himself as is. It sounds
Yes.
so simple, doesn't it?
It sounds so simple, but yet
Oh
it is
my
so,
gosh.
because
And it's so
of
hard.
society sees our kids. And I think that is just speaks so much more to how we need to continue to be loud in this
Yeah.
space.
So how do you actively work through your platform to reframe the misconceptions that we're talking about neurodivergent children and also their families, not just the kid, because it's a connection, it affects each other. So how do you actively work through your platform to change those misconceptions?
I am consistent about the messages that I post, and so much so that it probably sounds redundant. But it's because there is such a necessity for people to shift old patterns of thinking that are so deeply ingrained. Even myself, I check my ableism every day. And when I first began on this journey, it was a lot of work. And I was like, whoo, and I had to rewire. You know that like 10,000 hours stat?
Yes.
Like learning something takes 10,000 or becoming an
Yeah.
expert.
Yep.
And so I am very conscious of the messages that I put out and how I put them out so that they will resonate with everybody, hopefully. I like when I call myself inclusive, I mean that, you know? So I think part of it is consistency, redundancy, and just not giving up.
I think you're reaching so many different people together that would have not come together otherwise, or like really been inspired to speak out. Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
You mentioned your background in being Middle Eastern. Have you
Yes.
received support there now that you're on the platform and you're advocating for it? Have you
Yeah.
received support
From my peers,
from
Middle
your
Eastern?
peers, from people that you don't know, from people in your family, but just more from your cultural background? Because I'm sure it was so refreshing for them to just get that weight off of their shoulder and be like, okay, yep,
Yes.
she
Yes.
sees me. Yep.
Definitely. I have. I've connected with a few other Iranian mothers in the community, which has been really cool because we're like sisterhood.
Yes.
But what's interesting is that my culture is one of propriety. It is one of you respect your elders, you don't turn your back to your elders, there are specific conjugation for formality within the language that we speak. So like having that cultural background definitely brought a different lens and was part of the motivation for me to want to change the way that even my culture views autism. And so, yes, I have found people within but another thing that's incredibly important to me with my platform is that I want everyone to feel welcome and seen. We cannot call ourselves inclusive if we do not understand that there is intersectionality, that disability is, the largest minority group in our country.
Yeah.
And so I think I am very conscious of that. I want everyone to feel seen.
And I think you do a wonderful job, because I'll speak as a Black woman, because I'm a Black woman. Uh, surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
But when I go even on your stories and your content, I see you advocating for Black boys. I see you advocating for people of color and reposting things from them. And it warms my heart. It makes me feel, again, so seen, even though you didn't have to do that. Listen, there are so many platforms that I go on and I follow for a while and don't see any diversity. And I'm like, okay, well, good. The work that you're doing, awesome. It's just not for me personally. Like, I can't relate to a lot of the things. But I go to yours and I see brown people, I see Black people, I see even men, women, children. I love it. So keep going. All I'm going to say is I don't even have any negative feedback about that. So please keep going, because you do help people feel seen. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah.
That would be my hope, is that everyone feels welcome and safe and seen. And I think it's such a, you cannot talk about disability and ignore race. You cannot talk about, you know, what our children's face and not talk about systemic oppression.
Yeah.
And I just think that unless all of us have a seat at the table, none of us should be talking about it. You know, like if you don't consider everyone and you cannot empower everyone to feel seen, kind of a problem in our space. You know?
Yeah. And because I'm going to add one more thing before I jump into the last and final question here, because your kids are going to interact with a diverse amount of people one day in their life, whether it's at school, whether it's going to be at a job, whether it's going to be a social event, it's going to happen. So you're doing your kids such a big, big, big favor by, number one, exposing your own self to those so that you can go ahead and pass it on to them. It's really not just for you, because you never know who can help you too. You never know who's that person that you can come together with that is going to change your life. But also, what are you passing on to your kids? So I really do love that.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you feel seen, and I feel seen by what you share also, just as a, you're so vulnerable in sharing, and you're so, but at the same time, that is so empowering. It just really struck this balance between being like raw and open, but also like so powerful. And I think that's really hard to do in a genuine way on social media. So I want to celebrate you for that too.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. Especially coming from you, that means a lot. Thank you.
Oh, it's truth. It's fact.
So, okay, question number 5, the final one. Well, I have some closing ones, but how do you envision your platform contributing to your aspirations for the neurodivergent community, especially regarding parent support and societal understanding?
Yeah. So something that I haven't shared with many people is that my family, my husband and I, are actually going to start a nonprofit. And it will take the form of an empowerment fund. And this empowerment fund will service families who need it most, autistic children and their families, to support things like insurance copays, sensory tools that they might need, medical bills that they can't cover, whatever a family might need that they're struggling with, because as we know, everything costs money in the autism space.
Yeah, so much money, so much.
Children are missing out on the support that they deserve, be life-changing for them because they can't afford it. So that is where this will be going. We're excited about it. We're just sort of in the infancy stages of figuring out how to actually apply to become a nonprofit. Also looking into doing an adapted sports play date.
Okay.
So we would rent out like a basketball court here and invite families of autistic children, and autistic children, of course, to come and just play in a sensory-friendly environment.
Just like we were talking about earlier, just be.
Yeah, because there are not a lot of adaptive sports programs
for
our kids. And so just another place that they're excluded. And if there are adaptive sports programs, they are year-long wait lists. Like I've been on we've been on a wait list for a tennis program for autism for 2 years. So I'm like, we got to just take matters into our own hands, and hoping that can then, you know, other people can start taking initiative in their states or cities and start doing these adaptive sports play dates where our kids get to dribble a basketball if they want, or just spin or fly,
on the side, or like roll, like just be.
Totally.
Yes. Just to
so
be.
That's some ideas.
I love it. I love it. It's part of that community, because the way that we're moving, Leila, as you know, we're moving further and further away from each other. So whether it is mental health or just whatever we're struggling with, a lot of the time people will withdraw. You know, some with our social media and everything being on remote, with withdrawing. This is only going to get worse as time goes on. So what is going to be really important is connection. And if you can create that connection in something that you're passionate about, something that helps to bring awareness and make the world better, I am all for it. And so some closing questions for you, even though I don't want you to go. So what are some resources, whether it's book or articles, podcasts, that you would recommend to parents embarking on this neurodivergent parenthood journey?
Oh, yes. Specifically with regards to autism, the books that have like changed my life, one is called Uniquely Human. It's by Dr. Barry Prezant. And Uniquely Human, A Different Way of Seeing Autism. And it was one of the first books that I ever really allowed me to grasp and understand neurodiversity affirming philosophies when it came to autism. He worked with autistic kids for 60 years and has always been affirming, even when nobody else was. And so it is just full of information and stories about different autistic children and adolescents and adults, actually. So that's a good one. There's another one called Sincerely Your Autistic Child, and it is a compilation of letters that now adults would write to their parents or to parents of autistic kids, things that they would want you to know. That one, I cry.
Yeah, I'm already wanting to cry, and I haven't even read it.
Sometimes I just open a page, like I don't know if you can see my goosebumps, but sometimes I just open a page and I read one, and I'm always moved. I'm always inspired, but I'm always pained by what our kids and their adult peers have had to go through simply because of their existence. So that's a really good one. Sincerely Your Autistic Child. Unmasking Autism by Dr. Devin Price. What else? Those are the top three that I usually tell people to like start with if they're just embarking on this journey.
The last one, just closing, how can my audience find you, and how can they help support your initiative?
Okay. So you can find me at Sprinkled Spectrum on Instagram and TikTok. So follow, and if you like the stuff, great, share it. But also like seek out, learn from, and amplify autistic experiences.
That's an important one that you've just said. Like, become essentially an ally, and then find ways that you can not only educate yourself, but you can also truly support autistic kids. I agree with that. I love that. Well, Leila, thank you for your time today. Thank you for the work that you're doing. You're so inspiring. And I look forward to hopefully connecting again. Otherwise, I'll just be stalking you on your page.
No, we're definitely going to stay connected. Thank you. Thank you for having me on, for creating this safe space for me to be able to come and be myself and connect with you. And thank you for all that you do for mothers and women who need support and who need people to be talking about mental health and having these courageous conversations about mental health and postpartum and nourishment and love and vulnerability and power, female power, or like mother power and motherhood. So I appreciate you.